guys, and welcome back to my channel for another Mystery Monday video. Before we get into today's case, I just want to let you know that we will be kicking off Holiday Homicide over on Patreon. So, it's similar to the 12 Days of Terror that I normally do in October, but it's a holiday countdown. So, join us over on Patreon for that, and let's get into today's case. I have heard a lot about this case. I knew kind of the overview, but when I started researching it, I realized why people are so obsessed with it. It is like a murder mystery. So let's get into it. Our case today takes place in England, in Liverpool's Anfield district. And we have a man named William Herbert Wallace. And he was 52 years old when our case begins, which is in 1931. William worked for an insurance company. He was one of those men who took a lot of pride in his appearance. He was always dressed very, well-to-do. And he was married to a woman named Julia, and the two of them lived a pretty cushy life. They loved to entertain, have people over to their house for dinner parties. But William didn't have the best health. He had always had problems with his kidneys, and at one point he actually had one of his kidneys removed. He had a lot of health issues. He was sick a lot because of this. He missed a lot of events. He missed work a lot. So his wife, Julia Dennis, there's some weird stuff surrounding her age. So she was born April 28th, 1861, which would make her 69 years old when she died. And her husband was 52, but her headstone says that she was 52 when she died. And their marriage certificate says she was 37 when they got married, but she was actually 53. A lot of discrepancy with her age. I'm not sure why she was lying about it, if she didn't want her husband to know her real age. But this woman wasn't just shaving off a few years. She was lying about, telling people she was 17 years younger than she actually was. But other than lying about her age, she was a very lovely person. She was described as gentle, artistic, and shy. So William and Julia were not super wealthy people, but they had money. Julia also, her husband, loved to dress up in very nice clothes all the time. Now, this was the Great Depression era. A lot of people were really struggling, but William had a good job, and they didn't seem to one of the rooms was just for Julia's handbags, and the other room was like a little makeshift laboratory that we'll get into. Okay, let's talk about the street that they lived on, because this is like an interesting tidbit. The street that they lived on had a lot of death associated with it. So they lived on Wolverton Street, and people said that Wolverton Street was cursed. In the year before Julia died, 3 people had ended their lives that lived on that street. 5 women lost their husbands in these just very bizarre ways. One person died while watching a soccer match, and another guy fell off a building and died. So, there's that. There was also the Anfield housebreaker, who was an active burglar in the area, and this person had hit 30 homes in the area over the course of a few months. The Anfield housebreaker would break into these houses while no one was home. But the spooky thing about it was he never actually broke into the homes. He always entered using a key. So keep this in mind. The key thing will come up later in our case, but just know a lot of death, a lot of weird things happening on Wolverton Street. But it was a very nice place to live. They had a very nice home. The couple even had a housekeeper named Sarah who came in once a week to clean their home. By all accounts, Julia and William were very happily married. So while William made really good money as an insurance salesman, this wasn't his dream job. He had kind of landed this job because of his father. It seemed like he wasn't super happy with his career. William was actually very into science, and he dreamed of having a career in science. He kept this journal, and he would write how he was a little depressed and he wanted a career change. But he was like a real science guy. He owned this very expensive microscope that was like his prized possession. Before he went to work in insurance, he had earned certificates in biology, chemistry, and electrical science at this technical school. And then he had actually even been a professor at the Liverpool Technical College. But he walked away from this like dream work to work in insurance because it paid more. And I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but his wife was also from a very wealthy family, so he may have felt the pressure to make more money so that she could continue her lifestyle. So on January 19th, 1931, this is kind of the day that says, "Am I on the phone with the Central Chest Club?" And she's like, "Yes." And then he asks for Mr. Wallace. So she works there, but she's not familiar with every single member of the chess club. So she goes to Samuel Beatty and asks him if William Wallace is there. And he's like, "No, here, I'll take care of the phone call. Like, you keep getting everyone's orders." So, he goes back to the phone and he's like, "William is not here yet, but we are expecting him tonight." So this caller leaves a message with Samuel and asks William to call or come visit him at 7:30 the following night. He leaves an address with Samuel, and the address was 25 Menlove Gardens East. He told Samuel this was business related, and when Samuel asked for the caller's name, he said it was R.M. Qualtra. So after this caller gets off the phone, like pretty quickly after the call is disconnected, William arrives at the chess club. He said that he and his wife had been very sick for the last couple of weeks, and that's why he'd kind of been MIA. So Samuel relays the message from R.M. Quadra, and William is super confused by this message because he's never heard of this guy before. And so he plays some chess matches. Is that what it's called? Or like rounds of chess? I don't know what they're called. He plays chess for a while. And then he leaves with some other members of the chess club, and they're all kind of making their way home. On his way home, he spoke with one of his good friends. And he was telling him how he was so baffled by this like mysterious call. And like the message, none of it really made sense. All of the people who spoke with William that night would later say he seemed very confused by the message. He didn't know this R.M. Qualtra person, and it seemed like something didn't quite sit right with the message. Like something was bugging him about it. Before William had left for the chess club that evening, he had had dinner with his wife, Julia. But she had a pretty bad cold, and she wasn't like getting better. He got better, she wasn't. So, he wanted to kind of call it an early night because he knew she wasn't feeling well. So he went home, went to bed, and the next morning he woke up and went to work, and it seemed like a totally normal day for him. He spent the day going all around town, collecting insurance payments. He went home for lunch to check on his wife. They ate together. Then he spent some time in his little laboratory that he had made, because he's a scientist at heart. And then around 3, he left again and went back to work. Just before 4 p.m. that day, a friend and client of his would see him out, walking, and he said he noticed William looked like he had been crying and described him as being in a very distressed state. was his happy, normal self. This client said, yeah, he was wiping at his eyes with a handkerchief, but this man was always sick. He was always wiping at his eyes and blowing his nose, so it didn't feel like something was wrong. There was a bakery that delivered food to the Wallace home that day, and according to the delivery driver, Julia answered the door and was very polite, but he could tell she didn't feel well. William's last stop of the day, his last appointment, was with a woman named Margaret Martin, and it was a little bit of a longer appointment. It was believed that she was with him until about 5:45 p.m. And then William is totally unaccounted for about an hour, between 6 to 7. No one saw Julia at this time either. However, she had been sick and was just home alone, so it's not suspicious that nobody saw her. When William shows back up, he is seen and speaks with a lot of people. At 7:06, William kind of shows back up, and he is supposed to call or meet this MR guy at 7:30. So William is on his way to this guy's home. He goes to the tram and asks several different conductors which tram he should take. He also spoke with a ticket taker, telling him about this important business meeting that he was on his way to. He spoke with several people on the tram about how he needed help finding this address. He said he was new in town and didn't know where he was going. And he kept telling people that he was lost. And maybe he didn't know how to get to this address, because as we will find out later, it doesn't exist. But people will also look back and wonder if William was making sure to be seen and noticed by a lot of people. Maybe he was trying to be remembered because maybe, just maybe, he would need an alibi. He got off the tram and he couldn't find Menlove East. People could only point him in the direction of Menlove West. At 7:45, he stops a constable and asks about the address. The constable is like, look, I have no idea where that address is. He actually ended up asking seven different people for the address before he stopped the police constable. But the constable's like, I don't even know if that address exists. So then William tells this cop, like, the entire story about the strange call at the chess club. And so after hearing everything, the police officer tells him to either go to the police station or the post office and look at the directory and see if he can find the address. So he goes to the post office, and there he is told for sure that address doesn't exist. So he gives up and he heads home. At 8:35 p.m., a woman would see William with a man near Wolverton Street. William is seen by the Johnsons, who are his neighbors that live right by him. He was outside the house. He was acting strange. He was very flustered. And they're like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he tells them that his keys won't work. He's like, "I'm trying to get in my house. The doors are locked, and the key isn't opening any doors." And then he asks them, "Did you hear anything weird? Did you hear anything weird tonight?" They hadn't, but they wanted to help him. Like, they've known this guy for a while. He's a very nice guy. He's obviously flustered. He tells them that he had left around 6:45 that evening. He's just getting home. And he said he left. Julia was at home and the doors were locked. But now that he's back, he can't get in. He's like, "My key isn't working on either door," meaning the front door and the back. So they all walk toward the back door together. And as they're walking, William says, quote, "She won't be out. She has such a bad cold." They then put the key into the back door, and it opens right away. The neighbors say William was genuinely shocked that the door opened so easily. The home was pitch black inside, so he lights a lantern and begins going through the house, calling Julia. The neighbors kind of hang back at this point, and within minutes, William returned, and he was as white as a ghost. And he said, quote, "Oh, come and see. She's been killed." The neighbors then rush in to find Julia laying in front of the fireplace, face down, covered in blood. Her death had obviously been from a brutal beating. Her skull was bashed in, and there was blood all over the room. She was lying on a coat in a pool of blood. Her dress was partially burned, almost as if she had fallen into the fire at some point. I am not going to go super in depth about the condition of her body, but I will say there was brain matter visible, and William turned to his neighbors, the Johnstons, and said, "They finished her. Look at her brains." He kept repeating, "They finished her. They finished her." The neighbors then ushered William out of the parlor where Julia's body had been discovered. And in the kitchen they saw, so they had kitchen cabinets, and one of the doors to the cabinets had been torn off, and it was laying on the floor. William looked at it and said, "Look at what they did." There were a few coins on the floor near the broken cabinet, and he looked through this cabinet and told his neighbors that they kept a hidden cash box in there, and that someone had stolen 4 pounds out of it. So the neighbors are like, "We'll go look through the rest of the house and see if anything else is amiss." So William goes upstairs. At this point, no one is summoning the police. He looks around, but he doesn't see anything suspicious. Johnston goes to fetch the police, and his wife Florence stayed behind with William. Now, I guess when they first arrived at the house and found Julia, Florence reached down and touched her, and her body was still warm. After they looked through the house and her husband left, she went back in to check on Julia. I think she was in shock. For whatever reason, touched her again and noticed that her body was much cooler than it had been right when they arrived. So, like I said, I think both the Johnstons and William were in shock because they were doing and saying some weird stuff. William at one point was like, what could they have used to do this to her? But no one could find anything around the house that could have been the murder weapon. So finally, the police show up, and Constable Red Williams is the first to arrive on scene, and he confirms that Julia is dead. He then asked William for a statement, but he didn't write his statement down till like 4 hours later. So I'm not sure how accurate this statement is, because William gave it to this police officer, and then the police officer wrote it down hours later after investigating a brutal crime scene. But the official statement says, quote, at 6:45 p.m., I left the house in order to go to Men Love Gardens. My wife accompanied me out the back door. She walked a little way down the alley with me and then returned to the back door. She would then be alone in the house. I then went to Men Love Gardens to find the address that had been given to me was wrong. I returned home then, and when I went to the front door, I inserted my key, but it wouldn't open. It was shut, but not bolted. I then went around to the back door, and it was closed and not bolted. I tried my key, and it wouldn't open, so I went around to the front door to find it was now bolted. He said I hurried back around and tried the back door again, and this time it would open. I entered the house, and this is what I found. After he gives his statement, 2 more officers show up and they search the home. William did tell the investigators about the missing money. He also said that Julia had several handbags throughout the house that hadn't been touched, like no one had rifled through them, and no one had gone through any drawers in their house other than the one kitchen cabinet. The officers noted that William was, quote, calm and emotionless while all of this was going on. The police noticed that the lid to the cash box was still on, meaning whoever had taken the money from the cash box had then taken the time to put the lid back on it. And they asked William about this, and they also asked if he thought it was strange for them to not only put the lid back on, but then to place it back inside University of Liverpool. So he arrived at the home. He looked at Julia, touched her, noted her rigor mortis, and declared that she had been dead for 4 hours. Now, this is one of many time of deaths we will get. But I think he basically just kind of guessed her time of death. He did not take her temperature or anything like that. He did look at the blood spatter in the room to try to do some blood spatter analysis. And he determined that she had been sitting with her head to the side talking to someone when she was attacked. He believed she was sitting on a chair next to the fireplace because there was an area of the chair with no blood spatter on it. So someone had been sitting on that chair when the blood was spraying. The medical examiner also noted that William was too calm for the situation. He said that he came over while he was observing the body, and William just was like smoking a cigarette, looking over him while he was doing his thing. And the medical examiner said this was very unnatural. So the medical examiner, or what was the equivalent to a medical examiner at the time, declares that she has been dead for 4 hours. Which he says this at 10 p.m., which means if he is correct, which he used like no science to get to this precise time. But if he is correct, then she was killed at 6 p.m. And William Wallace himself had just told police that he had left his home at 6:45 that evening. Meaning he would have been there when she was killed. But then the medical examiner contradicts himself and says that according to the way that the blood was clotting around her head, she'd been dead for like 2 to 3 hours, which would mean that William was gone when she was killed. We'll have one more person who will come in and give an opinion on the time, so we'll get to that in a minute. While all of this is going on, everyone is trying to track down the police superintendent because he's supposed to come kind of be in charge of the murder investigation. But he's at a bar getting wasted. So finally, they track him down, they bring him to the home, and he asks William, so did you see anybody, like, murder your wife? Which isn't funny, but he's so drunk that he just is hoping maybe this guy forgot to mention that he saw the killer. William is like, no. So then he leaves, and he sends all of his officers out to look at tram stations, bars, basically canvass the area and see if there's anyone with blood all over their clothes, because whoever killed Julia had blood on themselves. Now I'm not sure if they would have like killed her, been covered in blood, and then gone to a bar, but I guess we don't know. So there is really no kind of crime scene protocol. Police are walking through the house, touching stuff, moving stuff, then the next officer comes in, picks something up, looks at it, makes like a record of what they found and where, and then another cop moves it to a different location, so everything is just getting trampled. It's is her husband, William, because they feel like his story about the locks not working and like being bolted and then not being bolted is super suspicious. So they ask him to clarify that. He said he tried his key in the front door and it wouldn't open. And he's like, I think it's like a defective or something. So police take his key and they try to open the front door and they realize the lock is in fact broken. Interestingly and pretty suspiciously, he never again talks about the front door being bolted and then unbolted. He kind of drops that part of his story. They also ask William about the coat that Julia was found lying on. Now, it was William's coat, and I guess when he and his neighbors first discovered her body, he said, "That's my coat," and started crying. So they ask him if the coat belongs to him, and he just sat there. He didn't answer. And then they asked him if the coat belonged to Julia, and he didn't respond. He may have been in shock, but in investigators' minds, they think he recognized that he had made a mistake by leaving his coat under her body after he killed her, and he was just not wanting to incriminate himself. The medical examiner was looking through the home as well, and he found like a little clot, like a little drippy blood clot in the upstairs bathroom toilet rim. He said that he was sure that the murderer had gone upstairs to wash up after killing Julia. Because so many police were basically like ransacking the entire crime scene, it's also possible that like one of them transferred the blood up there. They found no other blood anywhere in the house except the parlor where the murder had taken place. So it doesn't seem likely that the killer had wandered around the house after killing Julia. Around midnight, the police medical officer showed up, and he was going to basically give like a second opinion to the medical examiner. He was going to do his own medical examining. So he shows up, and in his opinion, Julia has been dead for 6 hours, meaning William Wallace was for sure home when his wife was killed. At this point, William is taken to the police station to be questioned. He's not arrested, although people saw him being escorted out of the home by police, and rumors just started flying. But he's at the police station giving like another official statement. In this statement at the police station, he is adamant that his wife would have never opened the door to a stranger. He's sure of it. When asked if he could think who would want to do this, he told police Richard Gordon Perry. And that is where we are going to end part 1. This video is getting pretty long, and I'm only halfway through the information, so we will pick it up with part 2 shortly. Please head over to Patreon and join us for Holiday Homicide, where you'll get